Well, everybody, welcome to this very special live stream today. This isn't just me. In fact, I'm going to do very little talking if I can, because today we are going to be joined with Jamie Lidell, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. As I say, this is going to be a really cool live stream, and for those of you familiar with Jamie, as I'm sure most of you are, Jamie's been really getting into the modular world, which is somewhere that I've been navigating for a while, and he's got an awesome setup. And recently I noticed he posted a picture on Instagram of this crazy looking setup, and I was interested to see what he'd been doing with it. And essentially he'd built a kind of hardware stroke software modular kind of looper setup. So I wanted to know more about it. That's what we're going to be doing today on this live stream. So I'm going to introduce him in a minute. Just while we're here, thanks to everyone who's joined us live. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Do let us know if there's any problems with the audio. Thanks. Hi, Paul LeBlanc. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Inky. Hi, Andrew. All the usual suspects are here. If you're new to my channel, please do hit that thumbs up and hit the like and all that. Subscribe for more of this kind of stuff. Right, I think that's all out of the way. Let me introduce the guest, who doesn't really need too much introducing. Hi Jamie, how are you doing? You all right? This is live.
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, there's a few buttons. There's a button for hello. I forgot where the hello button was. That was a pregnant pause, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, man. Thank you so much for doing this. And I know we've already had
Absolutely.
a few chats about this, and I'm really interested to geek out on this one. I think we can super geek out on this, because there's a lot that's gone into this by the looks of it. So
there really is. And you know what? I'm really happy to do this, because I've been trying to sort of not forget this one. And I'm pretty bad at archiving stuff. And, I was doing something the other day with my neighbor and this amazing musician, Rob Berger, and I listened to the recording and I was like, I always thought I'd remember what we were doing. I just don't know how we were doing it. I can't, so this is awesome, because this will now serve as a bit of archive of this moment.
yeah.
There'll be the inevitable moment when it's just like, oh, it's all coming down.
Yeah, we had this chat about how you archive kind of modular stuff. You was asking me do I write down my patches and stuff, and I'm very much, I've got loads of these books, and I just write down cool ideas, and I come back to them when I want to rebuild them. But I'm very much not about archiving when it comes to modular. I'm kind of set it up, squeeze what you can out of it, make a kind of instrument, which I think you've done here. You've made this cool instrument, get what you can out of it, and then it kind of flows and modifies and changes as it goes, as you adapt it.
I think in my case, it's more like the Buddhist mandala, You spend an ungodly amount of time making something that really feels like it's scratching the itch, and then you just brush it all away, and then it's just gone.
Well, in that case, it makes me even more interested to know a little bit more. Just before we get into that, I'd like to give people a bit of background as well. This is great for me. I'm trying not to be a fanboy as well. Jamie is someone I've been very familiar with. He's worked for many, many years. And I remember the first thing I remember seeing this was probably when I was at university, and he was doing he did the show in London at I think it was the Royal Festival Hall. It might have been a Warp event by the looks of it.
It was, yeah.
And you was doing some crazy, you're looping, you're gifted with this amazing voice as well, which is just awesome. But you had this kind of real soulful voice going on, but then you're doing this crazy looping, you have this weird jacket on, and this guy was putting his helmet on, and there's cameras, and it's just amazing.
We had like 8 minutes, I think. It was like this London Sinfonietta plays Aphex, and Square Pusher was there, and Pink Plaid and a bunch of other acts were on the bill, and so the time slot that we got kept getting shorter and shorter, because they were doing stuff like Steve Reich, six marimbas, and like some really beautiful violin phase, and it was an amazing show. And so, our time slot was like, Jamie, you've got like 20 minutes. It's going to be great. And then it's like 10. It's like, actually, we've got 8 minutes. You've got 8 minutes. So it's really just like, this is insane. We're gonna have to we're gonna get pushed on the stage and we've got 8 minutes. So yeah, it was I think part of the frenetic energy was just this idea of like, let's go 8 minutes. So
Mate,
yeah, that was I used to just sort of do these wild sort of freestyles, and really it was just a bit like clangorous madness, because I'll just jump into the ocean and try to get on the biggest wave possible and ride it till I just burnt.
I kind
And
of
like,
got,
and
I
it's
got that
good.
vibe. I got that vibe that you was just going for it. I'm just going to play a little snippet of the
Yeah, yeah,
video
yeah. Oh,
because
cool.
it's
It's a
so full of
classic.
energy. I love it. I love the visuals as well. Because
That
you,
suit is made of videotape. It's
oh
stuck
right,
to double-sided, like the Pablo Fiasco, who did all my visuals, is my roommate for years. Brilliant guy. He would make things out of like double-sided tape. You get these massive sheets of it, and you could like tear it off. It'd just be this huge sticky thing, and it would just cut into my neck every night, and I'd just be bleeding because it was just like this raw edge of pure cut plastic. But it was cool. It looked good, and yeah, yeah.
so is this?
Suffering for the art.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Is this all Superclide or something that you did this looper in for this one?
No, that was all Max.
Oh, okay.
Max MSP. Yeah, back in I started programming that looper in about 1999, I think, and it was done by 2000. And yeah, I
Okay.
used that looper to open up for James Brown and Bjork
Cheers,
and
man.
Prince.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was a good looper, that one. Really basic, but
Yeah.
not tied to a clock at all. You just were free. You'd make the first loop, and that would dictate the length of all the others. And then you couldn't change like how many bars relative to the first one any subsequent loops would be. Your first length of time was the loop that all loops had to have. So really the only way to add intrigue was just like muting, replacing parts brutally, just like, you know, just
Wow.
adding and subtracting, a lot of just like cutting away stuff and just
Yeah.
replacing it with other energy, and then using the effects on the board. All the output channels came up on a mixer. So I had 5 outputs for all the 5 channels that would be used to record into buffers. And that was a large part of it, just jamming the effects and putting effects on my voice beforehand, and just using the
That's it.
desk like a part of it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
kind of, again, you're using that like an instrument, and I guess I bet you got to know that really
Oh man,
intimately, and you was just like
that was
zoned
yeah, that
out.
was the one.
Yeah.
That was the one where I actually came up with something that I thought was really quite ace. I used all the black keys to do my recording and muting. So there was 5 on the left, 5 on the right.
Mm.
So you could easily cluster mutes with the black keys and undo them, and like that was the key to the patch. So it's like you'd kind of like mute everything, restart everything, and then there was a button that would mute everything. So you could just go ding, 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 wait. Then you'd unmute some channels that were going to be the next ones, and you could just go 2, 3, jump on, and just do
Okay.
whatever you wanted to join back in. And it's all about time being free. If you try and do that stuff to a prescribed clock, it's not going to work. It's all
Mm.
about everything just being off grid and just being like manually triggerable. This looper I've made now is quite the opposite. This is more like a drone machine, what I've made
Mm.
now. It's more like a textural thing. It's quite hard to do those animated, very fast things.
Okay. And
So anyway,
I
yeah.
guess then the next stage between what we just saw and what we're about to see was when you was. I've got another video here of when you was working using the kind of flow machine, which
Oh yeah,
you've got your
yeah,
Behringer faders for that. And
yeah.
is this? Am I right in thinking the flow machine was something that was developed by the mighty Tim Exile, and then
It
you
was.
incorporated? You kind of use that. Is that right?
Basically, the story is we both lived in Berlin at the time. I kind of cracked out my looper and inspired Tim to make a looper, and he just made a beauty. Oh man,
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, it is the most fun looper, and it is kind of weirdly internally clocked. Like I mean, it's free when you start, but then he had the amazing ideas of multiplying and these clever things about it knowing if you're doing a short phrase, it automatically guessed the nearest measure and would change between 16, 8, and then a half notes, and then it would do a bar, then it would do 2 bars, and it would like re-quantize itself as you were moving with it in a very musical way. And like obviously this patch I'm making now, the one that I'm going to be playing with its motorized faders, this is very much what it would be like when I was playing with the Behringers and the Tim XR thing. And that's the whole reason why I thought that would be amazing. Once I saw those motorized faders at Super Booth, I was like, because I loved working with them. I love working with the faders. I did it loads on stage and like just the recallability of things. So you can really go out and out and out, and then just you're right back.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is very much inspired by Tim's work on that, and it's just a great way of working it.
Big shout out to Tim and the team as well at
legend.
Endless. Brilliant,
absolutely,
really cool. And
yeah,
I know what you mean about playing with faders. They are so instant. It's much easier to push things up and down than it is to use rotary dials, I think, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, not to get too into it too early, but hey, why not? Got these little ones that do the ADSR on my synth voice, So if I'm playing a little, these ones are the traditional ADSR.
Yeah.
But, I can't easily manipulate two faders there in a really reliable way. But these, you can see just they're like so much more sizable, and that's it. It's if it's going to be your main control surface, it better feel good.
Yeah, man.
To be honest, the Behringers didn't feel that great. These feel better.
Yeah.
These feel better, and then because it's modular, they're chunky, and look how fast they move. I mean, they really do zip around. It's really pretty awesome.
All right, well, look, we've got a taste of this machine in front of us. Yeah. Let's jump in there, mate. What have you built? Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, you want to start off with a jam and
I'll try and make some sounds. It's always funny with these things, but I've played with it for quite a while, like as I've been developing it, obviously. And, as with all things like this, it's maybe not as reliable as some of the loopers I've made in terms of like it always like generates something amazing, but it's, and all I'm saying is that it sometimes takes me quite a long time to hit my flow with this one. So it's not like instant, but I'll give it a shot. We'll see what we come up with.
Cool.
So like we've got where's my other shot? Okay, this is a good place to start. I'm going to start with just like, so what's cool, I can play notes like this, and it's just traditional ADSR coming from the keyboard generating the CV and gate. But if I use the preset here, there's 4 modes per kind of instrument. This is now playing the XBO. And this one is now playing the 352, the Cloud Terrarium, which is kind of having its shapes modulated a bit. If I just play, you'll sort of hear it kind of wobbling about a bit. The filter's cutting it down. So that's that one, you see. And then I switch over to XBO. So an important part is the sound selector. Having a way to move through the sounds is really key. And then the other ones I can access. I should be able to access. Famous last words. There's a. If I get in the right key range. There should be a. There it is. Quiet for some reason. They should be like this mellotron. Oh, there it is. It's going through the filter.
Through the filter, okay.
So like this is an interesting thing. If I cut to the other shot, maybe you'll see it. See on the screen there is my little Chamberlain instrument that I did on podcast 100 with Nigel Godridge. I did the special release of the Chamberlain, which is actually sitting right here. It was sitting to my right. You can kind of just see at the end of it.
Wicked.
That's the Chamberlain, and I sampled it like with a lot of effort, and it's now possible to play it in an iOS capacity. So this is let's pick up a sound like, let's get a flute, and then like now it's actually going through all the filters and all the jazz, so I can like play these sounds. I can now, of course, I can loop that. So let's start with a bit of a. There's a few ways to loop on this system. I'm getting into it now, that it's quite nice actually. You can use, and oftentimes I felt I got so much out of not even using loopy, which is like the main looper for this thing. But there's also another looper, which is the Instro Lubad.
Oh yes, yeah,
Lubad. Luba.
something like that.
The looper,
Yeah.
and I suppose it's supposed to sound like looper, isn't it? So if I just record any sound that I'm making, the signal is always going to loopy, but it's also kind of getting fed into that as well. So if I hit record on that, it's now playing, you see,
Okay.
and it has its own dedicated volume knob here. The voice has its own volume as well, so I can kind of
Right.
we can add that little note to it. To the loop now. We'll have that one just in the looper. But what's nice is like this second key step will allow me to transpose the entire thing. I can now record over that again.
So you could just
In this
overdub
key.
and overdub.
And then but it makes these beautiful transpositions, because obviously you're taking a chord now and transposing it. So if we just try that with a simple minor chord, we'll just record that in. And you'll hear that. Got some clipping on the way, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Which is pretty tasty. So that's kind of one of the loopers, and the other one is a more traditional kind of looper, like on this loopy. So I've got 4 different loops, and I have these bar length selectors here, so I can do a half bar loop, which would just be, let's get back onto our little synth sound, shorter sound. Oh, and actually, I should say, just to complete the voice talk a bit, the voices also go through traditional ADSR VCA, but it also goes into the natural gate afterwards. So I can kind of really shorten it down. Let's put it now. We had the voice mode where you're just playing from the keyboard, but there's 2 other voice modes. There's the circadian rhythms. This one. It's just playing the pattern that is on. Oh, it's outshot. Oh no, that's a shame. It's just, as you can tell though, it's just playing this gate sequence. So this is quite satisfying, I reckon, because you don't just take this little. Let's get the voice sounding a little more full on, or just like change the voice. Quite like a hiss, but now I can record that obviously into my looper. Let's do a half bar loop, and that's playing now. And what I've got on here as well, because I'm on the XPO, I have like a octave shifters. I can change the rhythm on the circadian rhythm.
Okay.
But now I can do a bar recording on another channel that's a bit longer, you know what I mean? So I can just go.
Wicked, okay. And that's all playing inside the Instro, is it? Looping round?
No, it's all playing inside loopy, right?
That's in loopy, right, okay.
And each voice has a way of going through, has a way of going through like the effects I have set up.
Wicked.
That's just and I can return back to nothing and mute everything for one. Do you know what I'm saying? Because then I hit the record on the sound settings and also muted a couple of the loops. We could bring those in. And then all the loops themselves have their own dedicated volumes. And not only that, but high and low pass filters. And then you can add reverb to each individual loop layer. So you can kind of thin out the...
Wicked.
I mean, I'm you know, because now I'm in a bit of trouble because I've got some motion that I didn't remember. But you know, let's get rid of those loops though, right? And then move on to another cool mode, which is having the voice. Let's make that a bit shorter, and then put it into the nerdsic. Because another nerdsic has a little pattern on it. Oops, a bit high. Now, if I put a 4-bar loop in to my looper and do that, it's got retrospective looping as well as regular looping. So if I've got it in a 4-bar mode, the last 2 loops, like these 2 here, are like 4-bar loops. So hopefully if I press this button, it ought to give us that pattern. There it is. Now I can sort of like change the sound. We're getting a double of that now. I can go back to the voice settings and just add a bit of distortion to this voice against it. And maybe because of my precision adders, I can pull the voice down 2 octaves, you know. A bit longer. Even lower, maybe. Now, if I record that, it's going to record all of it, including its settings, which I'll do. Now I can move on to the second part of the sequence, which is quite fun.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Really nice.
You can reverse the loops. Put a bunch of reverb on them and just delete them.
Wow, man. Wicked.
You know, yeah.
Really, really cool.
And of course, I know I didn't show you, but I've been.
Oh, I think your mic went there, mate. Did you just turn?
That's right.
Oh,
I've been enjoying like running a couple of settings, but I can now run my voice through it all.
Yes.
So like now my voice, the first row of effects basically is just the analog effects. So I've got a high pass filter, which is the Duranalog filter 8. There's like a resonance control and a high pass that I can just change. Then the low pass is the variable Q from random source. Then this whole 4 quadrant here is my herb verb, mix, wet, dry. And then size and stuff, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
And then you can change this. And then of course with the snapback, that's fader recall.
Yes.
And so like you can
so
really
that's important, isn't it? That
like
is super important. Yeah. Yeah.
But also what's really nice is you can get a sound that's like here that's kind of a bit crazy or whatever. Indicate that it's recording. You can just be like 1, 2, 3, back to preset 1 again. You know what I mean? But that's the first layer of effects, and the second layer is new. I just implemented it since we last talked, and it's basically the signal goes into Loopy, and then Loopy has its own effects, which are Saturn, a Volcano, and Pro R and Timeless, all Fab Filter. So this is me adding distortion from Saturn. And I can really go crazy with the drive, which is fun. This is all effects just in the iPad, which was a classic example. It's so much more fun doing it on faders. I couldn't do any of this when I was touching it on the screen. It just didn't feel at all like this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because I've got 16 faders, I can really configure the whole sound on layer 1, the analog layer, and get all of that. Maybe and I can store that layer as well. So like I can really then jump between all the stored analog effects, you know, after we have, this is quite fun actually. This is a non-clocked, Miniophone, and this is literally the fader for the comb filtering, which is really cool. And then you can, this is very much based around Tim Exile comb filter, which is an essential part of the Flow Machine. But I've added an animator onto it, which is coming from the Rampage. So this will actually, it's modulating kind of on its own now. And the speeds can be modulated here, of course. And you can get absolutely bonkers stuff where it goes totally crazy. But that's really good. And then there's the last part of the chain is the ER301, which if I sort of sing maybe some notes like, ooh, it's a freezer.
Wow, man, wicked.
You know what I mean? Then you can kind of like freeze and hold, and then of course not forgetting the Luba, which is just really, really fun.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of potential.
You've got effects there. You've got the fader control, which obviously is very, very important. You can run your voice to it. You can run your synths to it. You can save things. You can recall. Really, really cool.
Yeah. It's sort of anti-modular in a way, because it's sort of like conceptually this is something that really is coming from my past of building something like, say, in Max or whatever. Like, but the preset recall was very important in the original Flow Machine. It's key, in fact, because you kind of like you're moving crazy. You want to feel like you can stretch right out, but you also think, oh man, where am I? Get me back home. And like a lot of modular performance, there is no way back home. You're just sort of out and you're like, oh no, it was cool about 5 minutes ago, but I've turned everything now. Do you know what I mean? I can't get back. And things like the Polyam preset, good as it is, it's very limited, and it's also static, and also trying to set things. The difference between trying to set these values to, say, represent all the different settings on a filter and everything, and then storing it. Imagine that versus this, you know? That is just like, as you go, you're like, oh, that's the sweet spot, a little bit less. This is just like, it's very, very fiddly. It's good for certain kind of macro control changes. In fact, it's being used in quite a weird way. It's like, I have to use a mux slicer, like sequential switch, to basically change the definition of the main VCA for the voice. It's quite annoying to explain, but it's cool because there was a point when I was like, I want to run certain signals without a VCA, without an ADSR, basically. I just want them open. So like to do that, I had to sort of take the main voice VCA and just have a mode which is just like full voltage. Ignore the ADSR, and so that's one channel of a switch, just the full voltage, and the only other one is the signal from the ADSR. So I need a way, the preset has a certain threshold that it crosses, because the mux slicer has CV addressable points, you know. So when you turn on this whole patch, you have to load the ER301, you have to switch the mux slicer so it's playing, and then you have to press the button on the Rampage so it goes into looping mode. But those are was watching that Marla Melodies thing recently where he's like, you got to get going in 20 seconds. This can get going in 20 seconds currently. It's really reliable. I've got to say, one big shout out to the Loopy Pro. I mean, it is really pretty powerful. I'm running it on an iPad Pro, and you just plug in the sound card. Coming out of it is the Lynx Aurora, the silver version, using a class compliant driver, and it's 16 in, 16 out with, like, you know, I think I'm running 64 samples.
Okay.
Pretty reliable, not much latency, definitely acceptable. And yeah, man, I'm going to stop talking.
That was a question there actually from Mental Frisbee and Jimmy Chonga, great name, was about how the audio is getting into the iPad. So you've just answered that.
Right.
There was another question as well, just going back to the faders. They are the M4 motor fader controllers, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And
the man mit der Maschine.
And who also makes the Droid module, which you've talked about. Now, I don't know how many people are familiar with the Droid module, but I've come to know the Droid module over the past, I don't know, few months or whatever, certainly before Christmas.
Nice.
And it's a powerful thing, right? Because essentially you can go into it and you can code within it and make it do particular things. So again, going back to your background of working with Macs and SuperCollider, you've got that coding knowledge. So
a little bit. I'm not a coder by any means. I wish I was. Man, I wish I was. No, but it's nice. The interface of Droid Forge, which is the new, previously when Droid first came out, was text edit only, which was quite intimidating. And then he made a beautiful graphical interface. Like, hats off to him. Really lovely programming. It effectively is just making a text file. It's still generating a text file which you can reference at any time, but it's basically dynamically building it based on much more useful things where you can see different. Basically, the Droid allows 8 inputs, 8 outputs on the master module, which can be anything, can be gate or CV, can't be audio. And then the really exceptional, like X7, is like a MIDI module. And because I've got so many things to control, having 8 outputs wasn't enough. So I needed to have like a Flame 16 MCC, I think it's called. Yeah, which takes the CC data that comes out of the Droid. The Droid is an amazing MIDI controller. Like, I'm controlling Loopy and all of those functions from Droid. Everything is being controlled from Droid. So like I have maxed out, I've got 100%, I've used the entire memory of the Droid to do this, but you know, it got me quite far. There's a lot of things I want to do. Like I have drums I can bring in, but I would love to have mutes just for them, but like I can't add anything at the moment. But,
that was a question as well from we've got Signal Sounds here, who was asking about the percussion.
That's where I got them from.
Yeah, they're
legends.
Yeah, they're great. They're asking, they don't see any percussion in the modular. They're saying, I guess any drums are done from an externally clocked source. We was chatting about percussion earlier, Jamie, weren't we? How's that working then?
Well, it is a tough one. I have got a drum machine off to my right, and it can play. I mean, it will play, and then I can sort of, you know, it's in sync and stuff. Yeah. It's just not, it's just not much fun really for me.
You thought about going back to your days of beatboxing it?
Yeah, kind of, not really. I just feel like I do have an idea for how to do drums and stuff. It was basically based around the circadian rhythms. And now I've got the Stolper beats. I only got it a couple of days ago. Otherwise I would have put it in this patch. I can, it's tricky with the looper, you know. You kind of want to build stuff up, so you don't really having like a really simple thing like the circadian has been great because it allows you to sort of just fill in the spaces in a rhythm in a really visual way. And I do have a lot of percussion modules, so they are actually ready. I have an input on this whole thing that was always going to be the drums. I've just never got round to it. Really, the drums I've got is the SY Core, the Syncussion copy, which they don't make anymore, which is a shame, by Pharmasonic. And then I've got the Noise Plethora, and then just the BIA and like the T Networks ADAC thing, and it all runs into a quad VC resonant EQ, the L1 thing, which goes into a mix and then the L1 compressor, which is working. And actually, I didn't show it off in this, but once I run the Luba stuff, I can also crossfade it and put the whole output of that through, you can't really see it, or you can kind of see it, through the Sputnik spectral processor. So then it will sort of change the character of that loop in a really lovely way. You can just sort of, and then it also has its own natural gate channel, so that any triggers coming from circadian will start to sort of pulse the loop and sort of cut it into shape.
Yeah, because you're going to
That's
want
kind of nice.
percussion to kind of move. And with looping, with the thing about looping, you can just have a static loop. You get a loop going and it's going. But
Yeah.
I think like you, I think you've said this earlier, is that you like loops to evolve and change and add effects and filter it.
Yeah,
So you're going to want that to happen with drums as well and percussion. Otherwise, they stay static.
Exactly.
So,
That's my problem with the current setup. If I'm concentrating all the other stuff, I think I've just got my hands a little bit too full to make it really dynamic. It's not, if I was doing a real percussion based case, it wouldn't be like this. You know, I'd have a different headspace for it, and I would make it behave a bit more. You can't, it's interesting. This instrument has a real sound, and I think every kind of incarnation of every instrument I've made has this kind of this real tone, this real quality to it. This one's got a little bit hissy because all the signals have to go through, you know, the herb verb, then the mimeophone, then they go through this, 301, then they go through the ECR plus, and that all comes out, So it's like this little high pitched noise. I've done my best with actually sounds pretty clean today. Quite happy with it today. But the gain staging has been a real pain.
Yeah, it can be like that when you're adding all these modules together. And again, and if you haven't got decent power as well when it comes to modular,
true.
that can be a noisy thing.
That's
you,
right.
you kindly sent over, I'll put it on the screen now, you might not be able to see this, but this is you've kindly put together this little map of like the voice path and the voice select and the filter area and amp and that kind of thing as well. So
initially that was just so that I could try to explain how a single voice does what it's doing. Basically, any of the options I have to go through one VCA whose sole purpose is just to select the sound. So preset basically it sends a CV only to allow a signal to come through the selector VCA, and then the sum of that selector VCA carries on through the filter chain. It goes through the high pass filter, then a PM resonator, which is based on the Polymoog, which I really love. When we did this album, we did this tour with the William Onyeabor band, and the William Onyeabor stuff that's on the Polymoog has the craziest sound, and apparently it's one of those before the low pass filter. So it's a high pass filter, then the resonator that goes into the low pass filter, and you can really push that. I mean, and it gets really cool. And then and then from there the signal splits and it goes to a mult, and it goes to the instro, the looper, and then carries on from there into the herb verb, mimeophone, and all the rest of the business. But yeah, that little diagram is just to show how, I'm using these A envelopes, one for each, the amp and the filter envelopes, and they're controlled from that, that fader bank I showed before, the little Michigan Soundworks thing. And the whole thing is clocked externally with the Acme clock. It goes into the quad clock distributor, which then like sprays it out to the Maestro. Yeah, one thing I haven't showed is it's quite nice, and it's on that diagram actually. If I try to get this going, if I just I can, instead of having the ADSR go over the filter envelope, I can put the that's now the Maestro running it, different shapes. I'm going to run now it's doing like, now I can change obviously the master clock to that, which is fun. So now I can dial in the amount of ADSR in that. Yeah, so you got the option to, and then obviously with that, you can get much more fancy and start to send chained things, which is really fun. And then get like more like and then put that through the circadian rhythm, so you only get little tastes of it. You know what I mean? So we would have like. like that kind of thing, you know.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's nice. And if you change out the rhythm on the circadian, of course,
just by programming different beats.
It's by manually programming different gate triggers. Yeah, it's just super powerful.
Really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you're like in that kind of whole world. Then you're like, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Take that one. Then when you're in the circadian rhythm mode, then the keyboard controls the pitch.
Oh, lovely.
If you create really long loops like that, it can be quite fun. You sort of like put yourself in a zone where you've got to deal with that longer sequence now. I mean, if I put my vocal on, like sing along with that, think, funny. And they just start stretching out.
Is that the freeze we're hearing there from the 301? Just
I think it was, yeah. That's a couple of things misbehave on this, actually. Things are misbehaving right now. That's quite funny.
That's part of it.
Just like, this part, yeah, you just ride it.
Yeah.
That was always part of the way it was with my other one. When I had my original, looper, I'd always like be putting stuff through like loads of effects, like when they came back on the channels, and I'd forget, and I'd just start a new jam, and it would be like the octave will be on there, like all this, and I'll be trying to do like a nice little ooh, and it'll come back like, I'll be like, and it's part of the rush, and you think, okay, it's going there. I suppose we're going to go here now, and you sort of. My whole history of playing live like that was just like you just ride whatever situation is coming your way.
Well,
and the great thing about the Tim thing, which was my original hope for this system, was I could do it, but it's been too complicated, unfortunately. But I could kind of do it. His whole thing, which was amazing, was you feed loops back into themselves to the sort of apply effects to loops you've already got, which stops the loops ever getting tired. So you can, half the time when you're making loops, you're just making too much information. So you're just stacking on and on. So you need things that can easily cut it away, not just filters, but sort of maybe rhythms, gates and stuff. So like, that's really something I'm missing on this. I could do it in like post effects on the loops themselves, but there's no way currently to re-record the loops. So like that would be nice. So like that whole section there is a bit long, that like thing. I might want just a little bit of it so I could then resample the loop into another one. But it's always a question of like, how much craziness are you going to add? Are you actually going to be able to play it? You know what I mean? I can quite express myself on this. I've done some beautiful stretch outs on this of late.
Yeah.
Had a lovely one yesterday. And like having like this longer thing on the nerd stick was really cool. Having a much longer pattern like that would just like play was super inspiring all of a sudden. I wasn't expecting it to be. just like having like something that would just like loop and do its thing. It was like super nice because then I could kind of like sort of think about programming longer flows and like capturing those and then just singing on top of them and like using just the looper to do all this textural control of the voice, which is pretty. Oh well, doesn't work right now. Having that though, when it does work, is good fun. I see, like it's my biggest error, and the thing that I really wanted to do at one point was to not have the dry level of the voice like it's here on a volume knob. That's what happened just then. I tried to put my voice through the looper.
And it was down.
And this was down, and that counts for the voice level in general. So that is, see, that's why having things on traditional old pots is a lot worse than having it on a moving fader, because I could, in a recall situation, that should go back up to the top.
Yeah,
but I just ran out of faders.
I've done something similar. Last gig I played, I went to do the last song, and it was all running through this VCA, and I forgot to open it up, and I just couldn't get any sound out of the system. You're on stage going, "I'm sorry, that's it. I was going to do another song, but I don't know what's gone wrong."
Yeah,
and it was just a VCA close. But that's the thing. Sometimes with too many options, you can get lost a little. And
you can. It's almost like you need like a little book or a piece of notes, which is like, in a panic situation, like just 3 or 4 things to look at. Is the VCA up? Is this up? You know, like just like, I mean, not that I've ever played with Modular live. I've never actually ventured out with it. But if I did, I'd take this fader system for sure.
Yeah, the fader system looks great. One of the things
it's expensive. That's the thing.
It is expensive. You don't want to get beer spilt on it, that's for sure. And one of the things I tend to do is I take some of the knobs off things that I definitely should not touch, like pitch. I color code some of them, so you can get the little caps from online, like Funk and stuff, and replace the color code stuff, so I know like these are go to red. That's definitely got to be open. That's definitely got to never be closed, and that kind of stuff. You know, just
that's really cool.
I don't know if you could do that on those faders. If you maybe get some colored faders for that fader bank, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you see, and like people do it. These knobs are all just like white, so you get like you know, you just get some of these little stickers.
Even better.
The sticker. But I mean, the faders, unfortunately, this is the analog effects layer. This is the layer of loopy input effects, and this is the looper output effects, looper volumes, and they don't get recalled when I change the preset. The looper volumes are like out of the recall. You know, which can actually lead to some issues, because if I'm on another page, you can be on this page, which is the effects, you know, input effects, and you can reset the looper stuff. It should work. I'll put that up and I'll do a load of nonsense on here. This is the looper page, and if I'm on this one, this button resets the looper page, but I can't see it though because it's on a hidden layer.
Right.
So now I can go back and I see that it has actually reset it.
Okay.
But you know, it's just kind of like it's a lot to juggle. There's 3 layers of 16 faders. And then these 2 things, and then this keyboard for the looper, and then this one, and then the Nerdseek, and then the Circadian, and then the Maestro, and then the Natural Gate, and then the 2 you know. But the amplitude and all the envelopes, that's there fixed. I never need to mess with them. So like as much stuff as I can, and I like this patch because sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I'm going to run a whole noise channel through. I can change the voices really easy. I can switch out any of the voices, and all I've got to do is like plug the outputs into another voice and give it in a volt per octave, and then I've got a whole other sound source coming into channel 1. Do you know what I mean? So that's what's nice about it. You can easily switch out stuff. It's not hard.
I guess, you know, you're saying that it can't, sometimes this doesn't work, that doesn't work, but these are things like with anything. Once you create a machine like this, an instrument like this, the more you use it, the more you learn its quirks, and you learn, okay, that doesn't do that, but I'll find a workaround, and then that in itself adds to the musical output in a way. And
it does,
because when you're working with loopers, the way I look at it is you're responding to the thing you've just done. So you make a sound, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's right.
Then you respond to that. Then you're responding to that. and you're just constantly
That's
responding,
right.
and it might be adding, it might be subtracting, it might be mixing,
Yeah.
it might be changing the timbre of the whole thing, run it through effects. It's
That's
just
right.
response, response, response,
Response. Yeah.
and I just
Yeah. I've
love
been
that
really.
flow state.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've been really happy because of late in the evening I've done these jams, and sometimes I'll be totally at one with the machine. It'll be like late at night, and I'll just be riding something, and I'll just gently like fade everything out into these verby washes, and the high pass comes, and I just
Yeah,
hit stop, and then the recording there is no noise. It's just perfect ending. I'm like,
yeah,
damn, man, that's like a nice outro. Like the
yeah.
whole thing is just like done. Like it doesn't. It might need, but what's nice, I've got it clocked to the Acme. So if I do anything rhythmic, it is rhythmic ultimately. This thing, it is the looper is always set to kind of divisions of bars and stuff. It's nice to do overdubs. I've done one pass and then I can just rewind and send the Acme the same clock from the computer,
Yeah.
and it's like bang in time. It's like pretty satisfying.
Well,
So
one
you
of the
can truly
things
do overdubs.
you can, yeah. Just one thing, and I know we've got to finish this up in a minute. One of the things I was talking about earlier when I was on Sonic State was one of the things that I tend to do is record CV into a sampler.
Nice.
I don't know if you've got any samplers like that. I've got the Bitbox Micro, and that allows you to record
Oh
CV
yeah.
into it, and which you can
Yeah.
recall and trigger.
Right.
So I'm just wondering if that might be an
Yeah.
area you might consider going into later on.
Yeah, what's
Secret.
really nice?
Yeah.
The Droid can do that. It has like,
Oh,
and I
okay.
had that in a patch for a while. I had it on the Mimeophone, because it made sense to sort of have to have whatever that effect, have that basically. I could kind of loop the way that was working with like basically. It's quite nice because you've got like little button states underneath these faders. This one allows the clock to be external to the Mimeophone, and it actually shows you the speed of the clock that's coming in by the flashing light there, which is
Okay.
quite fun. So look, if I see it slowed down, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
It's just this one. If I change the clock, it actually shows you the speed of the clock that's being sent to the Mimeophone,
Oh, that's
which is
useful.
just a little novelty. But and then then if you hit this button, that's the external input to the thing. But before I had like, if I hit that, it would record like 2 bars of me doing the thing, and then I could hit another button here, and it would do an overdub of anything that was changing. Very much like those light strips. But
Okay.
unfortunately, in Droid, that is a hugely CPU costly exercise.
Yeah, someone just mentioned that in a chat.
You can't do that. I had to get rid of that because that was killing my vibes.
Killing your vibes. Well, we don't want to kill your vibes.
No, man,
I,
don't kill the
I
vibes.
kind of feel like you've built a hardware version of your like original looper, and it's like you're almost
Yeah.
you've brought it to life. You can touch it now, and
Yeah.
it's not just in a
It's good
computer.
fun.
So
I'm waiting for my AM1, my console, because then I'll do a multi-channel version of this and like have a lot more finesse in terms of the sound fidelity. But it was just like, this is my initial test of the M4 faders, and it's been really good. It's really
wicked.
fun. It's a lot of faff because there's limited outputs, and Droid to learn took a while.
Yeah.
And it's definitely like, I'm always scratching my head because it works in a 0 to 1 format inside Droid, but obviously you've got external voltages, so you have to do these calculations to work out what the real world is saying. And there's no in Max, you can always like put a probe and see what something is putting out.
Yeah.
But in Droid, you've got none of that.
Okay.
There's no way to monitor currently like what the Droid is actually doing unless you take a snapshot of it all, which is like quite a pain in the ass. It's just the way that it's actually working.
Yeah.
It's more like just a text file that programs a unit. It's not really working in real time. I don't know. Maybe he'll be able to work that out.
Yeah,
But
might
that
be
would
able
be
to
a
add it.
huge. That'd be a huge improvement to the Droid Forge world. But it's young, He just put the Forge out relatively recently, and he seems to be going ahead full pace in total legend, man. Like MATTHS from Der Machine.
100%. Yeah.
He's killing it. It's awesome.
If anyone's interested, I've just put, Jamie also sent over his modular grid sort of rack. So if you want to
Oh
have a
yeah,
look at that, a lot of people are asking, what's he got? What's he got? You can have a scan of that. You can see he's got
yeah.
a lot of the L1 stuff in there. You've got the Bitbox, you've
Mm-hmm.
got obviously the 301, IntelliGel, you've got the Rabid Elephant stuff,
Yeah.
Circadian Rhythms, NerdSeek.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of NerdSeek as
Yeah.
well. I just
Fantastic.
like an old school tracker kind of vibe, very tight. Do
Yeah.
some
Just lets
great
you do
stuff.
longer sequences, doesn't it?
It
I mean,
does,
I just love that little island mindset that it has. And I
yeah,
love that you can just save everything, the entire state of the machine, and that's like really valuable. I mean,
yeah.
it's a bit cumbersome to program. Like, I wish they had like a way in the real time recording. I wish there was a way to just like not only add notes but just real time delete them. Can you do that?
In real time, yeah, I guess you could
Yeah.
just go in, just hit delete, and
Yeah, I know, but as it's scanning down, I just want to like an NPC, I just want to hit a button where just kind of like you can play in a phrase and you mess it up and you can just erase in real time without stopping, going to it, selecting it, deleting it. I just want to like have a thing so I can just play a little phrase and go, no, 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 delete that bit.
just yeah. I think
It's basically
there
having
is
a
an
delete
undo.
key.
There is an undo, which will undo your
Yeah,
last thing. So
I know, but you got to stop, go to the nerd
yeah, you do.
menu.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
they're in the
man.
chat today. Exor Electronics are in the chat. So
Oh,
if they're listening,
really?
yeah,
Are you?
yeah.
That would be one thing I would love to see. Yeah, in the live input recording over MIDI, if there was some way to just allow even the delete key to just be used to real-time delete events, much like on an MPC, when you just hold it down and for the duration of that, it will just take all of the
That'd be
information
cool.
away. It'd be so cool. Make writing in real time like a real joy. But great machine. Really,
Yeah.
really, really awesome.
Well,
But yeah,
look,
are there any questions?
yeah.
Or are we?
I'm just checking. There isn't any. Milo Melody's just joined us. Hey, how you doing?
Ah,
Hope you're well.
oh,
And
nice.
Omri Cohen's here as well, just saying hi,
Oh,
just
awesome.
dropping
Oh,
in.
hey.
Yeah, there were just a few people talk about droid looping CV as well. That's possible, but it's a memory drain. So,
Yeah.
I think, I think. No, I think we're there, and we don't want to keep you too long
Good.
as well because
No, no,
this is
it's
really
awesome, man.
cool. I really appreciate your time today. I don't know if you want to
Absolutely.
jam for just a couple of minutes or something, and we'll end it,
Yeah, try and
or
like just yeah.
and
I'll try and have a little stretch out because there's been a lot of talking, isn't there?
yeah,
But it's always the way. There's a lot to explain. So, and what I might do is just try and like because I've got the camera set up, I might like record of an evening and just sort of like put some of that stuff up, longer form, just like jams that are, in high def, and
that'd be wicked. I think we'd
just
all
for
love to see
fun.
that. I think we would.
Yeah, just I'm regretting not having done it over the last week or so because I mean, I was hitting record anyway, and like there's been some
Yeah.
good little moments. But
I
yeah,
think we all do
I
that. The amount of times I've
yeah,
been patching and then I'm like, oh God, I wish I'd live streamed that and just shown how people I built something up because that was just brilliant. And then of course when I do it, do it, I make loads of mistakes or some things. But
of course, it's
but
always the way.
we'd love to see
Always
that,
the
mate.
way.
If you're up for
Yeah,
doing it,
yeah, man. All
wicked.
right, well, yeah. Thanks for having me.
No worries.
Yeah,
I'll basically just let you jam out and I'll fade it
yeah.
out and we'll end it
Sounds
there.
good.
So thanks everyone
Awesome,
who's
man.
joined us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jamie, and hit that
My
thumbs
pleasure.
up and hit the subscribe and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Thanks again, everyone.
absolutely.
Nice one, Jamie.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Over to you.
Amazing. I've no idea what that sound is, how that's even happening. Fantastic.
It's a hard sound to work with, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's suddenly, okay.
That one has crashed me. Fantastic. I think I don't know what happened there, man.
Okay.
It was going so well. That's it. I'm gonna cut that off. It's just, I think it's like one of the effects is like jammed on or something. Isn't that weird? Hey, as if to demonstrate, like that's what can happen. So yeah,
Exactly.
brilliant. We'll just use the earlier jams. I've got to go anyway.
Nice one, dude. Thanks
Thanks, guys.
again, mate.
Yeah,
and thanks,
brilliant.
everyone. Take care. Bye for
Cheers,
now.
dudes.
Bye.